Welcome, welcome, guys, to another episode of the Spring Forward podcast. I'm your host, Spring Richardson-Perry, and today we have a very special guest with us. Excuse me. Joining me today is Joy Meserve, a business consultant, corporate trainer, and leadership coach, and she has an incredible background in scaling operations and developing leaders. My goodness, I can't talk today. Help me to bring on Joy. Welcome, Joy.
Hello. So nice to be here, Spring. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. And excuse me, I'm like tripping over my words today, but I am so excited to have you here to just talk to us about your experience. You have a wealth of experience, having spent 2 decades, I believe, as an executive, and then now you have Leading with Joy, which helps other executives to build high performing workplaces and cultures. So kind of talk to us about that. Tell us about your journey, and what led you to focus on leadership development.
Yeah, I am happy to do that. And by the way, don't worry about stumbling over your words. We all do it all the time. I'm sure today at some point I will flub my words too. So I think it's just about getting warmed up, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm Joy, and right. So I spent 22 years at the same company, which is kind of unheard of these days. I started very young, grew up from within, from regional manager to chief operating officer for the last 8 years there, and it was such an incredible journey. I learned so much. I had really a gift handed to me, which was I was given ownership and autonomy so that I could really try to move toward mastery of my skills and find that purpose within the company. And I think that happens a lot. I think that's fairly common at startups. Giving, that we all have to wear a lot of hats and really kind of put our best foot forward. But the reason that I stayed, we accomplished some amazing things, taking the company international, et cetera. But the reason I stayed was the people. It was the culture that we built, the health of the organization, and that type of organization where everybody felt seen, heard, and valued for their contributions. And so that's what I'm out now trying to bring to other companies and saying, all right, let's try some really simple, practical tips for busy leaders that will help you do exactly that. And once we do that, we find like all the other little things fall in place, like profits and growth and scaling.
That's awesome. Yeah, startup life is a different type of life, and for you to have been with an organization from startup to its more a seasoned days, I guess you can say, for 22 years. My goodness, we don't do that anymore, right? You're considered a veteran employee if you're there longer than 2 years now. So that's amazing that you were able to really learn and grow from this organization and then take that growth and help others. And so that's kind of where I want to kind of get into next is how you work with executives to develop leaders that contribute to both the people and the profits, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I just want to say, I love leading with joy, right? I love the play on your name, the way that I did mine, time to spring forward. So
Yes.
love it.
Yes, I know. It was one of the things that drew me to you, Spring. I was like, oh, we think alike. So I wanted to meet you, and this is such a wonderful way to have a conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. So I appreciate the name and the way that you use it to really help executives and actually bring joy to their work life, because a lot of times we can get frustrated at work and really start to hate our jobs, right? And so talk to us about, again, how you what it is that you do to develop leaders,
Mhm.
and how you're putting uh, people, sort of, I guess, work people and profits, how that works together.
Yeah, so it's all about the foundation of your business, which is your employees. There's a lot of talk about people first, and that has merit because when we figure out how to appropriately motivate and manage our people with motivation, when they feel like they are engaged to do the work, that's when all of these wonderful benefits follow. It's really the first domino is setting up that foundation with your employees because they are a gift. And, if you are in charge of 5 employees, you were given 5 gifts, right? And so it's all about how do you get the most for them, right? Because we want them to have a fulfilling life at work too. And that's exactly what brings more profitability for the company. Once they are invested, they're feeling like they've hit their zone of genius. They're in the flow. We're playing to their strengths. We're partnering them with them for growth. Then all of those good benefits follow.
Oh, I love that, right? Where we're putting people first. And because a lot of, with all of the things that changed in the workplace because of COVID, one of the main things was putting employees first again, because somehow along the way, we sort of lost that. And in order for companies during this time to attract top talent and retain this talent, they had to do things differently. They had to make their organization more appealing. And to do that, you had to have a great workplace culture. You had to
Mhm.
offer some sort of nice benefits and competitive compensation. And so all these things play a part, having the talent there to develop, but then actually being able to develop those leaders. And another thing that I think about here too when we talk about leaders in organizations is how to really tap into that intrinsic motivation, right? Because intrinsic means it's inside of us. So how do you, how do you tap into that? Can
Mhm.
you tell us how
Yeah,
leaders can achieve that balance?
absolutely. I think there's some fundamental things that motivate all humans equally across the board. And so we want a place where we can have some autonomy, some freedom of choice on a day-to-day basis. We would love to have choice over the 4 T's: our tasks, our time, our techniques, and our team. Now, we can't always, as leaders, give all of those things to every single individual all at once, but there are ways that you can give them autonomy. And in that process, it's saying, I want to give you something, right? Here's this project that's sitting over here. I think you would be amazing at it. I believe in you. Would you like to do it? Choice, right? Autonomy to say yes or no, not just going to force it on somebody. So once they say yes, great, you have that. And you proceed with, okay, wonderful. Well, you get full ownership over this. So now they get to choose maybe the people that they get to speak with and work with. That's team. They get to choose how they accomplish it. That's techniques, right? The tasks and the time that it's going to take to complete it. And moving forward, um, we say, okay, great. Now that you've done this wonderful thing, I would love to A, tell you what I love that you're doing, and B, I want to shine a spotlight on you. Would you mind presenting this to the team? All that you've done, the thing that you figured out, the problem that you solved. Hey, I can get you into the all company, all hands meeting on Friday. Do you want to speak for 5 minutes about what you've done? Guess what? The board of directors is flying in. And I think this thing you've done is so wonderful. If you want to speak with them for 5 minutes, I think you absolutely deserve it, right? So there's different ways we can shine a spotlight on people, and really give them that sense of pride. And they've worked on this thing, it's their baby, and now they deserve that moment, and that recognition. And the funny thing is once we have ownership and autonomy over, even just a small task, doesn't even have to be something that big, we start to get a sense of purpose. And that's the other key thing that motivates us, right? And I always say we don't have to be curing cancer. We don't have to be solving climate change, right? To have a sense of purpose within our companies. We just need to feel like, I understand how I contribute to the greater good of the company, to my peers and colleagues, to my team, right? To my employees that I manage. That gives us that sense of purpose. And the third thing that we all want as humans is we want to be moving toward mastery of something. So if this happens time and time again, we're playing to someone's strengths, giving them opportunities to really grow and develop through this, that's when you start heading toward mastery. And fulfillment, I define joy as fulfillment, right? So we get joy when we're fulfilled, and we get fulfillment when we're actually making the most out of what we've been given in life, right? The most of our potential.
So I love that. And I was thinking about, as you were talking, my mom, who she worked for a company for 31 years, and she retired from there. And so she had several different bosses throughout her tenure there. And one that sticks out to me in particular is one that sort of gave her the autonomy that you were speaking of, right? And so she was in management. She was she managed a team of sales people. She was a sales leader. And so her person, I think, were they regional or local, but they were like at the director level. And so her manager that I'm thinking of was the one who would say, okay, if you can get me these results, then I can give you, this reward, and it would be something that my mom would need, like if she needed a day off to like come to one of my school events or something. So she would allow her to take time off without actually having to use her vacation time, which wasn't, standard company policy, but it was something that as her manager, the manager understood what my mom valued, and she
Yeah.
gave her that choice. Once my mom gave her what she needed, then she in turn gave my mom what she needed. And so I always thought that was such a great way to lead. And I just remember that time because in sales at the time, my mom's job was very stressful. But during that particular time, when she had that particular boss, her her job seemed easier. And so I remember times where she had different bosses that were a little harder, a little stricter, and she seemed more stressed out. So
Mm-hmm.
just those small things like that,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may go against company policy, it's something that you can do for your employees. And I'm sure she got approval to do it. Otherwise she wouldn't have done it, right? You can
Yeah.
give like they call it comp time, company
Mm-hmm.
time, to an employee for achieving the results that you know you want from them. So I think it's just important for leaders to recognize how hard their employees do work for them, and reward that with something that they actually care about.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to me and you say, well, here's the Starbucks card, for a job well done, and I don't even drink coffee or
Yeah.
tea or anything like that, then I'm gonna be like, what is this? Like, why are you giving me this? This is no value to me
Yeah.
whatsoever. And then so when you ask me to do something again, I'm not gonna be motivated because I'm gonna be like, oh, are they gonna give me a stupid Starbucks card again? Like,
That's right.
what am I to do with that? So
That's
I
right.
appreciate you lifting that up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
talking about that.
I love what you're saying, and I think it's about what you're talking about is a social consequence. It's a reward. It's somebody saying, "Okay, I want to motivate you with this sort of physical, tangible reward to do this thing." But what ends up happening is it isn't extrinsic, right? It's an outside reward. But what it ends up doing is it puts fire in the intrinsic. It says, somebody sees me, somebody hears me, somebody knows me really well, and somebody, the most important thing, values my contributions, right? And so your mom was probably feeling really seen, heard, and valued by this boss, and saying, hmm, let me do more for you. Because when we reward our employees, even if it's just simple recognition, here's what you've done, here's the impact you're having on the organization or on me or the team, as simple as that, that gets us to do the behavior again and again and again, right? And so you start creating this culture of positivity, because I've seen it in real life. And once it's done, it's modeled. So then your mom was probably doing similar things for people, saying, oh, I appreciate you so much because of blah, blah, blah. And, what could I do for you? Let me help you. Just like my boss is helping me. They're giving me this day off reward that I really want. So yeah, that's such a fantastic example. I love that.
Yeah, and she was like that as a leader. She would make sure that she understood her people, what they liked, what motivated them, and use that to motivate them to get the results that she needed. And then in turn, they got the reward that was rewarding to them. So
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I love that type of leadership as well.
Yeah. And I think one thing I know I've had a past employee say is like, I know you all want to have dinner together and, go out, and that's the reward the company set up. But guess what? I want to go home and get in my jammies and, binge watch my show. That's a reward for me. So we have to be careful as leaders to say, like, here's the reward. We're all going out to dinner on the company. And they're like, oh, I'd really rather be home with my kids, or I'd rather be doing, X, Y, and Z. So we do have to be careful when we craft what that reward is, that it's not a one size fits all necessarily, right? That there's choice, again, autonomy in that. So maybe some people go out to dinner, the other people get, a $25 gift card to go out to dinner with a friend later on. They can choose.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I know. So, Joy, I know also that you do work around performance management, coaching the coach, and then having those critical coaching conversations.
Mm.
And so these are all crucial elements when you want to foster a culture of continuous improvement. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, what I find in my work is even leaders at the highest levels still struggle with this if they haven't just had the very basic training around how to have that conversation. And I think too many times, there's a lot of material out there about how to have this conversation, and it can be really it can feel heavy, like, oh my God, I have to do all these things and say the right thing. And, and what I boil it down to is really three simple things. First of all, we have to learn how to really pinpoint behavior and get specific. So very specific and objective with exactly what behavior that you didn't find desirable and you would like to see changed. What is that behavior? And the other thing I find is that even executives will come to this with storytelling. We all love to connect the dots and tell the stories and try to get inside people's heads. It's human nature. So people will come and say, well, I think this person is sabotaging this other person, right? And the language around that, if you went to this person and said, you are sabotaging, right? what is that person's first reaction? It's like,
They
yeah.
are going to be extremely defensive. And so, yes, the words that we use have power, and we
Mm-hmm.
certainly have to be careful with them. And this is one of the things that I say all the time. It's not always it has a lot to do with what you say and what you do. But even though, the saying goes, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. But words do hurt.
They do.
And words have power when you're not using them appropriately.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just somebody who's trying to like figure it out, right? They're trying to solve the puzzle. They're projecting motives. They're trying to get inside somebody's head, right? And so I do have some sympathy for them in that they've never been taught just a very simple way of doing it. So you want to talk about behavior like a video camera is watching. So that means we are limited to talking about what someone said and what they did. And the more specific you are, the less room for argument there is with that person on the other side of the conversation. They're going to receive it and they're going to hear it if you're being factual and objective here. And then the second thing that you need to do is tie it to an impact. So you've got to follow this up with why. Why is the behavior undesirable? So when we connect with why, we actually tap into our little lizard brain that lives inside us, right? And we tap into that. This part of our brain is the limbic system, and it doesn't understand language. It's not rational, but it does understand feeling. And that feeling is really powerful because it's that feeling that gets us to change our behavior. So if you can point out, this is the impact this is happening, and cause the person to have that feeling, that's going to help get their behavior to change. And the third step is to say, here's what I would like for you to do now. Again, very specifically, I'd like you to say this or do this, right? And here's how I'm going to help. Here's how I'd love to partner with you on that for success, right? Because as leaders, yes, they're responsible for their own actions, but we are ultimately held responsible.
Yeah. And ultimately, as a leader, you want to make sure that you're fostering, again, an environment that is productive. Because if you're not sort of nipping these things in the bud, then yes, you will be held responsible for it. Because it's like you knew that these, like for instance, if you have employee A and employee B, who, like you said, employee A goes to employee B and says, you're sabotaging this project. And then employee B is like, well, no, I did this because of this, this, and this. And then they have this hostile working environment. Well, now nothing's really going to be getting done because these two are not going to want to work together. And you as the leader have to try to figure out how to mend the situation so that they do feel comfortable to get together, or you're not going to meet your objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then that could cost the company a lot of money.
That's
and so
right. That's
when
right.
when you start talking money and dollars, and that's when people start listening. It's like,
yeah, we could have a lawsuit on our hands. We could be held liable. We could have to fire this employee and spend months finding a new one. All of those things cost money and time. And time is also money. It's really valuable inside a company.
yep, absolutely. Time. I always say that time is money. Money is time. Oh my goodness. I appreciate all of your insights, Joy. Thank you so much for all of your experience and your knowledge that you've shared with us. If people want to reach out to you for your services or to help them to develop their leaders, how do they contact you?
Sure. You can find me at leadingwithjoy.com. That's my website. And then also, I'm active on LinkedIn. So please follow me there for tips and tricks. I'm constantly posting so you can learn things for free.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today. Again, reach out to Joy if you guys want to learn more about how to develop your leaders. She has a wealth of experience, over 20 years as an executive herself. And so she is eager to share her knowledge with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.